Hello and welcome to Rose Play Season 7, Episode 17, the season finale and review show of The Walking Dead Season 2. As always, I'm your host, Aureen Moonrose, and it seems like only yesterday that we just did the Let's Play and review for Season 1 of The Walking Dead. A whole 2 seasons later, and now we're on Season 2. So, let's stumble and moan our way into Brains Part 2. So, some of the history for this game, which some of it is going to be repeated from the last 2 seasons, as we've been on Telltale Games for a few seasons, is that, as I've just stated, the game is done by Telltale Games and Skybound Entertainment, or maybe it's just Skybound, I'm not sure which. It's an episodic interactive drama graphic adventure, so pretty much a choose-your-own-adventure, and this time it really feels like it more than the other 2 seasons have. It's based on Robert Kirkman's Walking Dead comic, and, of course, based on a sequel to the first Walking Dead. Telltale Games did acquire the rights to a multi-year, multi-platform, multi-title game, meaning that when they did the first Walking Dead, they had signed a contract to do multiple seasons of it, and thank goodness, because Season 2 really makes an impact on the Walking Dead universe. And because of this, they were going to have multi-titles, multi-years, blah, blah, blah. And as they're getting ready to do Season 3, this really looks apparent. So, what is the story and the plot? The story continues to follow Clementine now, several months after the death of Lee. As spoiler alert, at the end of the first season, Lee does die. Sad face. However, she's now traveling with Krista and Omid, who were survivors from the first game, and as far as we know, the only survivors, as the rest of them died towards the end of Episode 5. Along the way, Clementine and her ever-growing and waning group of survivors that she comes across with new problems, new dilemmas, and choices more harder than the first. Will Clementine continue to survive, or will she perish at the hands of the zombie apocalypse? Or perhaps even what's left of humanity? That's pretty much the history, story, and plot, without giving too much away. So, let's go ahead and dive into the next segment, the presentation and the music. So, the presentation hasn't changed much from the first Walking Dead game. It still employs the same narrative structure of the first season, with all choices and impacts carried over to Season 2. The graphics seem a little bit more defined, however, and the QuickTime events employ more actions and button combos than it did of the first one. It acts more like The Wolf Among Us in how it plays the QuickTime events. Instead of just, Y, A, whatnot, now you can swipe left, right. Something I don't think that was in The Wolf Among Us is you can hold a button and then push a certain button upward to make a character do something. Like with that of the peroxide incident. Ugh, that still gets me. The story takes a much more darker and twisted persona than the semi-dark yet still lighthearted humor of the first one. And I mean dark, not just, it's just dark to you, no, I'm pretty sure this gets very, very dark compared to the first one. As where there is still humor in the second one, don't get me wrong. It just seems like it's harder to find, especially when you have these dark moments. You don't quite know where to go with the humor, especially on a Let's Play. The zombie apocalypse really takes a hold of Clementine and shapes her as such to be expected from an apocalyptic event. because of the fact that she's been in the zombie apocalypse since she was now a little girl, and now it's several months later, and she's a few years older, you can really start to see the effects of all the negativity within the world. So, what about the music this time? And I usually tend to repeat myself when it comes to music. Well, the music, just as before, was very emotional and well fit into each and every event, whether happy or sad. It brought those moments to life, causing dire stress to the player in moments of QuickTime events. So, if it's a sad moment, it plays some really sad music, happy type of yay, victory moment music. But during the QuickTime event, sometimes the music's just like, are you going to get the button in time? Is the zombie going to eat you? Rawr! And it just really puts a stress on you to not mess up. So, the music, as last time, and even more so this time, I believe, becomes just as much of a character as the characters themselves in the season. So, might as well be music is a main character, which it always should be. To the point where you just accept the music and forget it was there or what you've been listening to, as it's usually the point of non-vocal. When it comes to non-vocal, you know it's there, but sometimes you don't remember any of the pieces. That's usually how I feel with the game. Now, unlike the first season, where the only vocal music was at the end of episode 5, it's credits, this time around, they've got music at the end of each and every episode, except for season 5, so what a twist! And not just that, but each song at the end played some type of part of what happened, or at least conveyed that feeling of what just happened. So you're sitting there listening to it, and you're just like, wow, I can't believe that just ended the episode. Also of making you want to really see what happens more. Though I do find it strange that they did not put anything at the end for season 2's episode 5, but hey, they got 4 other vocals, so I can't really complain too much. Now, we're going to go into next characters and actors. Now, since we've already visited this universe once, I will touch on the character and their voice actor, but if they were in the first one, I'm just going to skip over anything that we knew them in and whatnot, etc. So, into the character/actors. So, another new criteria, too, at least for the episodic type ones, is that we're only including characters that played a big impact, so pretty much those that stayed around 4 episodes. Maybe 3, I'm uncertain if all of them did or not. So, let's bring out our handy-dandy notebook, which is barely visible, and get started on the characters and their actors. So the first one was Clementine, being reprised by Melissa Hutchinson, which, if you want to know what she's also done beforehand, check out the Season 1 review. Next up was Scott Porter as Luke. He's also known for Nightwing in Batman Arkham Knight. I liked Luke's character. It was a nice companion, but he also seemed like he still had a lot of vigor, and the zombie apocalypse did get to him, but it didn't seem like as much, so he was a great counter character to Clementine's ever-growing downness because of the zombie apocalypse. Alright, then you had Brian Bremer as Nick. I couldn't find anything on him. I really couldn't. So, not much to say on what he's been in. Nick was a hassle. I mean, don't get me wrong, Nick seemed like he tried and cared. He scared the pee out of me in one episode. Other than that, you kept having to save his life, or it came down to, having somebody save his life. And in the end, it really didn't amount to anything. Slight spoiler, he still ends up dying, and it's like, it's nice that we were able to keep him alive that long, and he was helpful for the group, but it's not helpful enough. Alright, then we got Shay Moore as Rebecca. She's also known for Mila August in Soul Eater. Rebecca was I guess a Krista replacement. I mean, don't get me wrong, she had her own attitude, and she seemed like she really hated you at the beginning and then slowly grew on Clementine. So you kind of grew on her. But, slight spoilers again, she was pregnant. And so by the end of the episode, she gives birth. Or at least towards the end. I think episode 4 she gives birth around there. So I guess it was their way to fill the role for Krista and her pregnancy and lack thereof her. Yeah. Other than that, she was a strong figure. She had a nice boyfriend as well, Elvin, who ended up also being really nice, but died quite early on. Alright. We have Louisa McIntosh as Sarah. As far as I could find, this was the only thing she has ever done. Sarah was a burden. She was a burden and she was a plot point. I liked Sarah. I'm pretty sure her father, Carlos, was right that there's something not quite right with Rebecca, or with Sarah, but I'm not quite sure if it's because of the zombie apocalypse or something beforehand. She also plays a big part into another main character who I didn't put down, and I won't quite say who either, but this main character does play a vital role in the climax of the season. But Sarah seems like she's a focal point to help this main character convey that not everybody needs saving. Or shouldn't need saving. Depending on how you want to look at it. Alright, and then finally, spoiler alert, and drumroll, Gavin Hammond comes back and reprises his role as Kenny. Kenny's amazing. I mean, I don't know what it is for me at least, but I think Kenny feels like the new father figure with Lee gone, as well as the fact that Kenny and Clementine are now the two longest survivors, at least for when he shows up, for this zombie apocalypse. So when you see somebody that you're familiar with, you're just like, oh my god, you're alive! Again, if you want to know what else he's played in, you can check out the review for Season 1. Otherwise, that's really the main cast that survived 3-4 episodes. There were supporting characters, and the supporting characters were alright, and some of them were neat, and there's still one or two that are really important, but really don't pop in till like episode 3 or so. Alright, so let's see what the reaction for the audience and the review sites were, and the reception that it got from everybody. So, how did Season 2 fare to Season 1 in reception? Well, pretty much the same way. It received positive reaction from audiences, mostly praising it for its atmosphere, once again, and its new protagonist, along with the sense of tension. So, yeah, the new character, Clementine, she was really strong. You knew her from the first one. You got to see her grow a bit, so I definitely do agree with this. The tension in it was way more than the first season, like I stated a little earlier. It's kind of not as lighthearted, and there's a lot of choice and consequence in this one, which I definitely really, really enjoyed. Now, if you did criticize it for the lack of writing and lack of puzzles, honestly, though, in my opinion, the story was intense enough that even if it did have a few problems with its lack of story, which, again, I didn't feel there was a lack of story, it was mostly due probably to the attachment of the characters, and at least a few of them, as well as the fact of the story was unfolding and there'd be action sequences, I think they did enough put in there to where even if there was a lack of writing, you really, really couldn't notice. Other than that, I also didn't really care that there was no puzzles. I wasn't worried about it. As again, the story and where it was going and who was going to survive, how they were going to survive was the important part. Now, I remember what little puzzle did Season 1 have? I know there's that one scene at the hotel where you had to kill certain zombies certain ways. So you had to go over and grab this to kill that zombie with that to get to this zombie, who now you got to go over there. Really, that was nice mechanic, but I'm glad they got rid of the puzzle element, as I think the story was the main focus, especially this season. So I think it was much, much more worth not having puzzles in there. And again, lack of writing. If you were one of the people who thought it was a lack of writing, I'd like to know your opinion on it, because I personally didn't. But again, that's because of all the action and the events unfolding and character growth. I think they did a spectacular job on this. They really outdid themselves from Season 1. So, let's go ahead and see if I have any final thoughts and what I rated this game and what others might have rated it if they didn't give it too many ratings. So we'll go ahead and start with final thoughts first, as always. Now, this is one big final thought, so it probably won't be that long like usual final thoughts. But although Season 2 was much darker and much more stressful on choices, and the zombie apocalypse has become an even harder and colder world, causing the lead characters to become a much different person. I'm very curious to see an even more older adult Clementine, hopefully with Elvin Jr., which, spoiler, that's the name of the baby, and the baby does survive till the end. And seeing the future with all the outcomes from previous episodes, and shaping Clementine's personality, seeing where the writers can go with it, and will hopefully be an interesting turn of story unfolding events in front of our eyes, especially when it's released and played on Rose Play. But yes, Season 2 might have been a lot more darker and might have been a lot more colder and harsh, but what do you expect from a zombie apocalypse? I mean, nothing's going to go good. I think Robert Kirkman said it himself when he created it, and I think I've said it before in Season 1, that nobody has a happy ending. Eventually, everybody dies off. And it was revealed that he might be killing off Rick Grimes, but who will replace him? I personally think Carl, but we'll see on that when the time comes. But could they kill off Clementine in Season 3? Make Elvin the new lead character? They could, depending on how far they span ahead, but I don't know if that'd be such a good thing. We've grown so attached to Clementine, it might ruin the series unless you really build up the character, and that might be what they're doing for Clementine too with Elvin Jr. Regardless, if Season 2 pulls at my heartstrings enough and makes me want to see what's going to happen and see all the multiple outcomes, it's going to be amazing. And I can't wait for Season 3 to fully finish, and eventually for us at Rose Play to get to it for you guys, because you guys have been along for the ride for both Season 1 and Season 2, and I appreciate and thank you guys for that. I want to show you where Season 3 will go, so that we can enjoy it as a group, as friends, and sort of family in a strange sense of the word. Not world, but it is a strange new world in that universe too. I also heard that Season 3 is going to be closer to where the comics are in the stories right now, so that ought to make for an interesting turn of events. Alright, so, no dilly-dallying anymore. Let's go ahead and see what people thought and gave it for a rating. So, as with the last two seasons of Rose Play, and as with The Walking Dead Season 1 and Season 2, each episode had its own rating from multiple sources. So, it is kind of difficult to pinpoint exactly what a rating for the game will be. However, on the back of the game box, it gives it pretty much 9.0s, 9.5s out of 10. I think 1 or 2 gives it a 10 out of 10. But from what I looked over from all the reviews, it roughly came up to something around a 7.5 to 8.5, which seems a little down from the previous season. I think personally it might have been better, or at least a little better as a whole than Season 1 was. Now, Season 1 was the showstopper, and I'll explain that in a moment, but because of this, I'm giving it a 9 this time. I think last time I gave it a 9.5. Maybe. I honestly don't remember. Maybe it was my first 10. So many reviews, so much time, right? But, even though I think it really captured the feel of the zombie apocalypse and Walking Dead, they really did go dark and surprised from it. There was still that feeling that Season 1 was a catalyst for everything, for the events to Season 2. And what I mean by that is, Season 1 was a groundbreaker. Nobody expected what each and every episode was going to do, and then it had that shock shock twist at the end of Season 1, and that really, caught people off guard. With Season 2, people kind of was already expecting it or feeling it, so it was kind of already out there. So, because of 1, Season 2 didn't seem like it would be as much of a jaw-dropper, and I think that's why they went as dark and gritty as they did with this one, was just up their ante. It's like Back to the Future. Back to the Future 1 was great, but 2, I think, perfected everything. And 3, as much as it was needed because they knew they were going to do a trilogy, I don't think it was as great as 2. Now, Season 3, being it will then be a trilogy when it comes out, will be judged either much better or worse than 1 or 2, having built a franchise going. Still, worth a play and a must play, especially if you played Season 1 and enjoyed it. So yes, because of Season 3 being like this third game in the series and this trilogy, I'm probably going to judge it much more harsher. Either it's going to be really enjoyable or it's not. We've got the built characters, we've got the built events, where it can go and what they can do. Will there be surprises? Let's hope so. But that's basically the reason why I gave it a 9.02, was just because we've seen it done before and it's still a great game. But the loading, that was another reason why I gave it a 9.0. Just every so often you'd be in the middle of a cutscene and they would be running and press A, and you're pressing A and you're trying to strangle and just, it's like, oh my god, what do I do now? I understand it's not fully their fault, unless they just didn't take the polishing out. I mean, there is a lot to do in there, so I do understand, and that's why I gave them a 9.0. So, that's going to be it for the season finale of Season 7. So, next episode, join me as we start Season 8 and the Let's Play of Lego Marvel, with special co-host guest this season, She and Blue Rose, to help me play through it. So, until next time, remember, keep gaming, never give up, and when you hit a trilogy, all bets are off.